Okie dokie. So Nazir, what we have here is very good colors, but I'm going to ask you to zoom out. And I've said this before many times, and you know what zooming out does for you. But when you paint something already zooming out, and you assume that you've already zoomed out so much and you've gotten a good hold, zoom out again. And zoom out when you're done. What this is going to do is it's going to help you find a better sort of understanding of the lighting that you're doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a gradual lighting where only the top of her head is really illuminated. And we get that sort of transparent Castlevania look, you know what I mean? Because that's really what you're painting from. It's sort of that sort of really transparent pastel style look. And when we pinpoint one specific light source and work with it, what we get is a consistent looking image. Consistent looking concept, let's say. So everything in turn, after you're done painting and everything looks so good, you have a chance to fix the lighting. And when you fix the lighting this way, it becomes easier sort of to understand what you need and what you don't need. Next time when you start painting, you remember to include this stuff. But right now what we're doing is we're trying to create everything to react to this lighting that we just did. So everything is reacting to this lighting. So the lighting is right above her head. There's going to be some shadows. You can not do it. There's an option to not do it. But remember, doing it is part of learning. So if you do take these corrections, it's good for you, because if you don't want it, throw it in the trash, but at least you know what the principles are. And the main principle that I'm showing you right now is keeping the light source coming from one point. Next thing that I do is I create things that react in light, not just in shadow. So we're going to create the reacting shadow. And I'm going to bring in an orangey, a bit no man's land, because that's sort of the style here. And I'm going to place, do you see it barely shows, Nazir? Do you see the yellow that I'm using? I'm using this color right here. It barely shows, very transparent, but look at what it does to the skin. The skin still looks pale, but look at what it does. It's so exceptionally bright, and you need only just a little bit of it to truly make a difference. I'll put it on way low. And then we have a lot of shadows here from the hair. And what we're doing is we're trying to make everything react to this light source, which is right above her head. Where should I send my image if it would like to be critiqued? Your image should be sent as a link in this chat box right here, or through Skype if you have my Skype. How do I turn off this? Okay, there. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more of this color here to try to sort of make the bridge of her nose a little bit more structured and a little bit less animated. The reds that you're using are a bit out of the tones. So you have a lot of purples here, and there's a purple red. There's an option. There's a kind of red that matches purples, which is a very purpley red. And what you can do is that you can really, instead of using a red or a blood red or a crimson, the same sort of color code but a little bit more purple and a little bit less saturated will match better. It will still look red compared to all the other desaturated areas. And what I'm going to do with this really light source, with the really light color for the light source, is I'm going to try to trace out her hairline. Do you know how you have that space where your scalp shows in between hair? I'm going to try to trace it out. Okay. And try to get some of that light source in there. And remember that trick that I showed you between a light source and a shadow? We place that red. It's a very gentle little redness. But what it does is that it gives us saturation. And it's very, very nice. Do you see that? Between the light, which has yellow, and the shadow, which has purple, we place a nice little red here. Do you see what that red does, Nazir? It's a very nice stylistic little addition. I'm going to put a little bit of the red on her nose area, a little bit of red near the cheeks. And now for the eyes. Eyes also get shadowed. Eyes also have shadows on them. They're not exempt from shading and shadows. Some people do. Some people think that they are exempt and they leave them completely white without any shading at all, which is very, very wrong. It's sort of like glowing almost. But remember that eyes do have shadows. I'm going to place a little bit of light because some of the light, because eyes protrude, eyes are eyeballs, they protrude out into the light that's falling through outside of the darkness. Some of the light will reach the tops of the eyes, on the eyeballs, and the top lid. Just a touch. Going to bring some of that yellow, put it on this area. And I'm going to bring some of that same red that I used on her nose. Actually, I'm just going to move the slider. And then place that red in between the shadows. Do you see what happens? It's very, very fun color. You can also bring this color into the hair on the outside areas to really tie the reds together. It's a very nice little trick. The hair isn't pink, but it's got the touches of pink on it. Do you see that, Nazir? A really bright apple red. I'll show you how to make it work like really well in a second. And I'll give you a little bit of tips on the hands. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade out the hands completely. And then sketch the hands over for you because I don't want to draw over them. Because what the hands are doing is that they're sort of making us, they're deceiving us and making it seem like the neck is the right size. And it's just a tiny bit out of place. I mean the head shape, the chin. Okay. So do you see how the face is emerging out of the darkness now, Nazir? Do you see that gentle little difference? Keep yourself zoomed out so that you really get the best of your perspective. And illuminate the chin just a touch. To give it that dewy skin. I'm going to sharpen because everything seems to look too soft right now. And now, remember those dark spots that I tell you about? Those very important dark spots? I'm going to get a really dark red, almost black. And I'm going to give it to the areas that really, really need it. Not sparingly. Very selfishly, I'm going to give it away. Try to center the iris, the pupil with the iris. Okay? Don't make it flop to one side. It shows an unskilled artist when the eyes are asymmetrical. It's one of those things that you can tell the artist is having difficulties if the eyes are asymmetrical or if the eyes are flopped or if the eyes have some sort of inconsistency. It's very, very difficult to get away with it with a bad looking eye. Very, very difficult. This purple here that you use to outline the nose, I'm going to use it to sort of shape out the bottom lid. So that the bottom lid can really so don't forget that when I edit these, I'm still on 14-day challenge mode when I edit them. So imagine it's a 14-day challenge thing. The principles still apply. These are just little tips that I'm giving you guys. Okay, and when the light shines, what happens is that all the moist areas get some of the lighting. All the moist areas get a lot of light, not some. And you know that tear line, sort of water line that you have? It gets some light too. It gets a lot. And I'm going to outline that area so that it looks like that moist area is getting. So do you see now how the light source makes it very difficult to achieve that kind of red that you wanted? Sometimes in art, it's not about you. It's not about what you want to paint. It's about what your inspiration is and how much of the world allows you, how much the world allows you to paint of it. So how much you let come through, how much you can get allowed to come through, and your maturity as an artist is how much you can sacrifice and how you can make it work with the real world. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but basically, you have to be mature enough to know that you can't do everything you want to. And there are some things that if you do them, the image will look very anime, will look very flat. So you have to find a way to do them where they don't look flat and it's still what you want to do, which is what I mean by allowing or sort of being mature enough as an artist to know when you can use that much. So I'm going to put some red on the lower part of the eyes, right there. I'm going to use some shading to shade out her cheekbones. They seem a bit large for her face. I mean, the cheeks seemed a bit fatty for her face, which seems very skinny. I'm going to shape out her chin. Too much. Yeah, not really anime, because I see it in anime, a lot of red and black. I see it in anime. But what I mean is there's a way to make it look good still, but while still being a fine art student. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to bring in some of that, not there. I'm going to bring in some of that darkness in here. Very good job with the mouth. Nazir, you've come so far. I'm so proud of you. Okay, I'm going to darken this area here. And do you see how now the skin is really emerging? I'm going to get the desaturation tool, which is the sponge tool, and I'm going to desaturate completely those shadowed areas. They are still purple technically, but when I desaturate them, something happens and they look even more desaturated, more like shadows. And you get a nice little thing going on. Next, I'm going to bring in the dodge tool. These are my favorite tools, and if you don't like using these tools, you can use your brush to duplicate what they do, but I feel like it saves me time. I'm trying to duplicate what they do if I already have the tool, and I've already gone digital, so there's no dignity I can't say that, dignity left in using that kind of sort of luxury. So you see what I'm doing? When I used the dodge tool, it gave me this red. It brought out this the reddest of the red in the eyes. That red I'm gonna use giggity. Yes. I'm going to use that red that came out through the dodge tool on the lips. So do you see now we have the right red now? I'm going to carry this red in a very low opacity into the cheeks, into the nose. And now you have that red that you want. Remember when I desaturated the shadow? Remember? I'm going to bring the red over it, because if I had brought in the red over a purple shadow, it would have been too saturated. And now I'm going to bring in that red in all those tiny little areas that need a little bit of blood in them because they look a bit too saturated compared. It's a very powerful color. And do you see what's happening? The illumination is coming through. I'm going to bring in the dodge tool into the lips to give it some illumination and then sharpen that up. When you sharpen, it's not like using the paintbrush. It's really just you bringing out what your paintbrush did, that the softness setting took away. I'm going to use some of that light that I just located to build a bridge for the nose. Really just give it that edgy thing. Now for the hands. I'm going to save this actually. Save. For the hands, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw it for you, how the hands should really look. Because the way you did them before, you did them drawing the hands only without drawing the arms, and you have no space to draw the arms. So how are you going to draw the arms? Well, you're going to have to draw the arms nevertheless and then crop it. That's what a powerful artist does, Nazir, is that they make the image large enough to draw the arms in order to draw the hands, and they crop it back down to what they originally wanted. Don't limit yourself to the canvas size. work with the canvas size that you have by enlarging it so that you guys don't lose out on proportions when you're trying to draw hands and when you're trying to draw feet that are or knees. Make sure that you have a good hold over your drawing by enlarging the canvas and zooming out, drawing the necessary shoulders, the necessary neckline, the arms, all the way down to the hands, so that the hands look like they're not floating in thin air. And that's how they looked before this. So if I zoom out and sort of eyeball where the hands would be, without using reference, I'm going to try my best here. I suck at hands. Is that I'm going to try to work with, I don't know how you did the hands, they were like laced together. I'm going to try to work with it so that I know where the shoulder line is. Trying to keep that sensitive little anime look. Not really anime, it's not, it's like a mix. And I'm going to try to imagine the shoulders. One, two, three, four. Babe, can you answer the door? 1 second, guys. Okay. Huh? Okay. Do you think you can find garbage bags that are large enough for the Home Depot or something? Okay. Okay. Good luck. Okay, so I think you had them laced together. And what I'm doing so far is the basics of what I'm doing is that I'm not working in full detail so that I find myself in the middle of an issue later on. And I have to have all this detail to deal with. So what I did right here is my biggest piece of advice for you for the hands is making sure that you understand how the hands are working when even though you can't see the arms. To understand to draw the arms, to draw the hands as if you're drawing arms with them. So to make sure that your proportions are fine and everything is together. I hope you know what I'm talking about. If not, I'm just mumbling to myself. Oh Lord, it is difficult to draw these kinds of hands, no doubt. But do you see how I'm sort of working in a way that lets me make corrections, zooming out, seeing if I have the general shape right, and then you go in and detail all you like. So we've got this one. Oopsie. And then we've got this finger, and try to give it a more organic look. Don't give it that that very sort of like cartoony symmetry. Give it some asymmetry. I know I'm totally failing at this, but I'm trying to lace them together in a very organic way. What the heck did I do here? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. And I'm just going to erase that down again. Oops. Why is my eraser on that mode? Brush mode, please. And do you see how everything is sort of everything is sort of coming together size-wise, so we have a good size. And then go in again with your details. Sorry, I'm not in hand mode right now. One, two, I don't know, but you know what I mean. The way you drew the arms before looked a bit too, like sort of sketched out, a bit too shapely, and they didn't really have that organic look. So basically zooming out, imagining that you have arms and all of that, really helps make the approach towards the hands a bit more organic and a bit more proportionate, so that you don't really lose out. So before, oh, that's how you had the hands. Okay, they were like laughing. Before, I'll zoom in a little bit. So do you see how the colors, do you see how the red didn't match? It was so orange. And there's a way to make the red work without making it look that orange, because there's a purple version of red, there's a pink version of red, there's an orange version, there's a red version, there's a blue version of red. And so you really can play with it, because as an artist you have to understand what colors you can use and what colors you can't, depending on the palette you're going for. And you chose a very cool palette, so you can't choose a warm red. The red you chose was pretty warm. I can't drop tool it because I'll delete the history, but so before, after. Do you see how organic it looked? Do you see how transparent her hair looks? Because of the way I let the red come through into her shadows. So her hair looks very transparent, very white. Before, it looked very, very opaque, almost flat. Before, after. Do you see how when I made the shadows on under the what's it called? The chin. So I shadowed all those areas. Do you see that big chunk of shadow I threw under her chin area? From here to here. This is something you have to know that you're doing, because you had everything down okay. You had the proportions of the face pretty good. I didn't enlarge. Did you see me enlarge the eyes or shrink the nose? Everything is a good size. You've really improved on that. I'm very proud of you. You have a face now. But what I'm doing is that I'm trying to show you the principles all over again. What's your light source? Where are the shadows pointing? Do you have yellow light source? Do you have purple shadows? And what I did was I brought in a yellow, try to get some sort of hairline working, desaturated some shadows, gave the eyes some shadows, give them a little bit more contour. Remove that anime drawiness to it. So do you see how they look very, very cartoony and very anime? And after, they had that very realistic, upper lid, bottom lid system going on. So they looked a lot more realistic. And then we kept shading and shading until we reached this.